Recently we gave you the assignment of developing the features and benefits for your final project. There's been some questions about what exactly is the final project for this class. The final project for this class, you will be coming to the Gateway facility and you will be presenting your final sales presentation. Now, in this final sales presentation, you will be coming in and setting the stage ahead of time, telling me exactly who I am as a customer. And I guess the purpose of this little video clip is tell you what projects have been successful and which ones maybe aren't that successful. So you ask, am I bringing in my own product or can I make a product up? For the most part, using a known product is going to be the best case scenario for you. You will be able to use the sales materials and promotional materials from the company or the product that you're using to benefit you. Things that we've had sold in class in the past, energy drinks, power tools, catering services, landscaping plans, jams and sauces, you name it, we pretty much have had it sell. A lot of iPods, that kind of stuff, cell phones. The one requirement for your final presentation is it is not going to be a retail transaction. So it is going to be more of a business-to-business scenario. And the reason why we have it as a business-to-business scenario is it allows you to get into detail with those 7 steps of the sales process that is discussed in the book. Like for instance, one of the weaknesses when we didn't do it that way with the iPod was selling the iPod to one person, talking about the features and benefits. It became a little bit more difficult for you to kind of get outside of those specific pieces. Those have the tendency to be more transactional in nature. This way, you will talk about different objections. You'll be able to give me quotations for price, those type of situations. Just because you use the product may not necessarily mean that you know all the features and benefits of that product. So if you came in here with an iPod, I might have some different questions for you, and in the past people didn't know all the intricacies, so I would ask a question they wouldn't necessarily be able to answer. If you're thinking about selling in a business-to-business format, and we had some questions, what's the difference between the business-to-business versus a consumer format? You gotta remember, it's a longer buying process, and there's certain things that the business-to-business customer is going to have that maybe the retail or general consumer isn't going to have. We want to know, especially if I'm going to be using it as a resale product, I want to know how am I going to make money on it. So I had someone who had their own company that they made jelly and jams, and they actually legitimate business. She does it on her own, and she's in a lot of the boutique-ish grocery stores. It's probably the best presentation that I've ever had in either my day classes or my online classes. And what made it a great presentation was she was able to present the product, the taste of the product, the quality of the product through demonstration, and she was also able to give me the idea of how I could be profitable by selling the product in my store. So from a retail sense, if you're selling this to a retailer to sell in their store, I want to know that it's a quality product that customers are going to want it, and I also want to know how am I going to be profitable with this product in my stores? How much profit am I going to get? You know, regardless of which side of the sales piece you're at, the what's in it for me from the customer is always a very important feature to look at. When you look over the features and benefits, remember the bridge statements. A lot of times people will list those features. They might say, well, here's the benefit to you, but we need to say this feature and what is it going to get the customer. You need to give a statement there that's going to give the customer the knowledge of exactly what that means. Recently I went in to buy some televisions, and I was at one of the major retail stores. They may be, the outside of their buildings may be blue and yellow. And the tag outside may say Best Buy, potentially. And I was confused looking at the television. It's been a long time since I bought a new TV, and there was tons of TVs, same size, $1,500 difference between the low end and the high end. I had no idea what I was looking at. And so salesperson or the representative comes over and says, oh, that's 1080p. And I looked at him with a very blank look in my face of 1080, huh? What? To me, telling me that it's 1080p does nothing for me. Right? Just telling me that, well, the resolution's 1080p. That's the feature. You need to tell me, well, the 1080p is going to get you a lot more clarity than the other 720, and the larger size screen that you get, the higher you want that number to be. You want to tell me what's the advantage to me as the customer to have 1080p. Just telling me that it's 1080p does nothing to me as a customer, because now you're not getting that what's in it for me type of atmosphere. Getting back to the presentations, how you handled your visual aids and the product itself. If you can demonstrate your product during your presentation, you can get it into my hands. Either I can touch it, feel it, taste it, whatever. How many more senses you can get me involved into it, the better that presentation is going to be. It's one of the main reasons why we don't have you videotaping your presentations. Is in the videotape presentation, I can't get a good feeling for it. I can't get a good feeling for what the product is, why is it better, and how you interact with the product itself. I've had people who have brought an iPod in to do that as a demonstration, and quite honestly, they couldn't even get the thing started. Maybe the battery was dead. You got to make sure everything is going to be working for you during that presentation. Another reason why we don't have you videotape and send it in is, quite honestly, I'm going to interrupt you during your presentation. I'm not going to interrupt you with a phone call or anything like that, but as you're presenting, I'm going to ask you questions. I want to see how you're able to react to those questions. What you don't want to do for your presentation, and why this is different than any other speech class you may have had, oral personal communications course. You know, when you write a speech, and I've written lots of them, what do? You can script that whole thing out, and you can give that speech, and you're not worried about any additional interaction. Here in this presentation, that's not the case. You may present a specific feature about that product. I'm going to ask you some questions. You don't want to have this thing scripted out. The other question is people about PowerPoint. Can I do a PowerPoint for my sales presentation? I always say be leery when you look at doing a PowerPoint for your sales presentation. Just for the fact of, you don't know exactly which features and which benefits I'm going to want. Because you're going to tailor this presentation based off the needs of the customer. And so, if all of a sudden you hit one of the features that I think is really important, and then I follow up with a background question, and I ask, well, you said it's 1080p, and you went over those benefits, what's the refresh rate of that television? You don't want to come back and say, well, that's a very good question, but unfortunately, we're only on slide 4. I talked about the refresh rates of the television on slide 28. So that keeps your presentation too scripted. That's not really how it's going to be in the industry. Go to any company and see how they sell products to you. Look at what is successful of what they're doing. A good salesperson versus a bad salesperson. When we talk about the relationship selling process, some people call it the consultative selling process. We're really here about developing relationships. The idea that you're developing a long-term commitment from this customer to continue to buy over and over again. You want to let the customer tell you what product they're going to be purchasing. Right? Generally, you're going to have an offering of, I always say, 3 is the best